All right. Good morning, everyone. I am Jessie Whittish with Kentucky Youth Advocates. It is great to see all of you this morning for our first forum of 2022, our first forum of the 2022 General Assembly. We're really excited to talk to you all today about Children's Advocacy Week coming up next week. So just a reminder that we're recording today's forum as both a video and I believe as a podcast as well, or maybe not as a podcast. Regardless, please drop your questions into the chat. I know some of you may have some specific questions. We tried to get to all the ones that you posed in the RSVPs in advance. So please drop anything you have in the chat and we will try to address those, because if you have that question, someone else does too. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Terry Brooks.
Hey, thanks so much, Jessie. I'm not going to take up a whole lot of the time today because we have a very heterogeneous group of folks on the screen, which is great. Some of them have been to every Children's Advocacy Day, I think, over the last 107 years. And some of you have never been there. So we wanted to make sure we framed it. I have to confess, and some of my colleagues know this, special moments inspire me and they also worry me. So for instance, many of you are involved during April. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. Lots of attention to that issue, and that is great. What always worries me is that there is a temptation to think about it, come May 1st, well, we've done child abuse and now we'll move on. So I have to tell you, I always hold loosely the idea of Children's Advocacy Week, because we know that advocating for children just cannot be on a single day. It cannot be on a single week or a single month. It has to be persistent. I see my good friend and colleague Jane Emke joining us. One of the things Jane exemplifies is when she decides there is an issue, she's like a dog on a bone, man. She shakes it until it gets solved. And that's what we need to do when it comes to Children's Advocacy Week and Children's Advocacy Day. So I enter this discussion with lots of excitement, lots of commitment, but I would not want you leaving this call feeling like, boy, come next Friday at 5 o'clock, I've done my thing. Instead, what I hope happens this year especially is 2 or 3 things. And I don't want to bury the comments of my colleague, Nahet Collar, because she's going to take the meta-narrative view of the General Assembly. Our goal next week, we have 2 goals in my mind. We want to raise the importance of delivering policy and budgets for kids and families. And number 2, we want to message our priorities so that folks in Frankfort can find a common ground. I don't have to tell anybody on this call that the level of bifurcation and toxicity in Frankfort is huge. If you're just reading the headlines and watching how the all-important state budget is playing out, I mean, it's just wild, and it's only going to get wilder. And yet, if we really take the ethical and intellectual challenge seriously, to go beneath the headlines, to go beneath the surface and look, we're going to find interesting common bounds. I'll give you an example, and I don't think I'm outing anybody. The governor, in his budget presentation, talked about the importance of social and emotional supports for kids. Our staff was in a conversation just yesterday with Senate leadership, and what did they talk about? The importance of social and emotional supports for kids. So we need to look at those themes, whether it's reforming juvenile justice, restorative and trauma-based care for kids. I see Abby Drain, the continued reform of the child welfare system. Those are not rural, they're not urban, they're not House, they're not Senate, they're not Republican, they're not Democrat, they're not conservative, they're not liberal issues. They really do create a common ground. So what I hope you hear from us today is see next week as an absolute pivotal opportunity to raise children in the minds of our leaders in Frankfort. Don't see it as just a 5-day gig, but see it as the kickoff event. And as you look at issues that are close to your heart, I want to challenge you to keep thinking about common threads, common ground, common sense. And if we can have that kind of an agenda, we are going to make sure that kids win in 2022. So thanks for being here today. We definitely are going to be looking for you at all kinds of events next week. Especially I just have to say, I want us to blow away the elected leaders in Frankfort come next Wednesday for that kickoff. I hope there are so many people on the screen that it gets their attention, and we're counting on you to help us do that. So with that, Patricia Tennant, take it away.
Gary, welcome everyone. I'm Patricia Tennant, and I'm really thrilled to be kind of moderating a panel of my colleagues who are super committed and super organized and really been thinking about how to make the most of the next week with Children's Advocacy Week. So excited to share with you about that. Children's Advocacy Day at the Capitol began in 2004 as an effort to unite advocates across the state to raise their voices on behalf of children for our safety, health, education, and economic well-being. And every year, hundreds of advocates, I would say thousands, from counties across Kentucky gather at the Capitol in Frankfort to rally on behalf of children and to promote priorities on the blueprint for Kentucky's children, which is a shared policy agenda. And because one day is not enough for this important advocacy, we've shifted to Children's Advocacy Week. And personally, this is my 14th Children's Advocacy Day/week. And I am more energized than ever because, we know Kentuckians care about kids, but this is the opportunity where we see it, and we get to see so many of you in person. We've seen so many more of you in Zoom, and we're collectively making sure our legislators understand that we want them to put kids first. So before we take a deep dive into what's happening next week, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all of our Children's Advocacy Week sponsors. Many of you are here on the Zoom today because without them, this vital advocacy would not be possible. And we want to thank our signature sponsor, Aetna Better Health of Kentucky, our presenting sponsor, which is United Healthcare, our youth digital media sponsor, AT&T, and our social media sponsor, WellCare. And you can see the full list of sponsors on our website. And we're so grateful to them for helping to make this possible. We also want to thank all of the Blueprint for Kentucky Children's partners, organizations, advocates who consistently show up for kids, and all of you on this forum. Thank you so much. So we're going to hear from some of our KYA team members about the details for next week, so you feel prepared and ready to take advantage of all that we have to offer and give you a kind of some insight and some bills that have already been filed. And so I'm going to start off with our Chief Policy and Advocacy Officer, Mehet Kalra, and ask her to give you a sense of, why are the stakes so high in this legislative session and what's happening that advocates need to be aware of.
Thanks, Patricia. Hi, everyone. As Patricia mentioned, I'm Mehet Kalra with Kentucky Youth Advocates. So Children's Advocacy Week is important to us, honestly, because I haven't seen any kids at the Capitol yet. We've seen busy legislators and plenty of lobbyists, but kids need you as an adult to make an impact on those legislators. So we're really counting on you all and your voice this upcoming week and weeks to come. So this year, this legislative year is a budget year yet again, which means it's a 60-day session. Today is day 8, if you aren't aware. And much of the conversation during last week was focused on redistricting and updating candidate filing deadlines. And if you aren't familiar with the process, redistricting happens once every 10 years, right after the census is complete. And this happens because our state's population is constantly changing and people are moving too. So to simply put it, redistricting determines who represents you. And this process is when the majority leadership in the House and Senate draw new district maps, which then goes through the whole bill process like any other bill. So that was one big thing that happened last week. And then towards the end of last week, the House of Representatives unveiled their budget, which just signals a fast track nature of this 2022 budget process. Earlier this week, you've heard the governor outline his pre-K and education budget proposal. And as the weeks continue, we will hear, I'm sure, plenty of other conversations around the budget, including the governor's budget address, which will happen this Thursday night at 7 p.m. And I'm sure the House A&R committee will again meet shortly and soon to talk about their proposal. So as you can see, legislators, advocates, and our internal policy team aren't getting any rest the first week of session, or the first few weeks of session, I should say. And there's plenty of more information that we as KYA will share during next week's policy and advocacy information session that Jesse will discuss in a moment. But a quick reminder of how the bill process works with the budget. So the budget starts at the House. The bills are referred to the House Appropriation and Revenue Committee, and that's where it must pass the committee before it's reported to the full House. And once it goes to the full House, it needs to get 3 readings on the House floor, and then the full House votes on it. It requires a majority vote. So then typically it goes to the next chamber. And I will just make this note. We know that from previous years, no budget will just streamline and go through the process. Each chamber usually has a different budget bill, so they must work their differences in the conference committee, which is made up of senators and representatives. And then once that's done and it's passed both chambers again, then it's sent off to the governor to either sign or veto any line item vetoes. So that's the budget process in a nutshell. I would encourage all folks that are joining or listening that you should set up your meetings with your legislators. We have a great a budget checklist and a policy checklist that you could utilize as an easy tool when you reach out to your legislators or set up meetings with your legislators. And you could request a virtual meeting, and it all depends on the elected leader, how they want to take that meeting and if they want to take it virtually or in person. But I want to just share those tidbits that it's been a busy few days and weeks this session. So Patricia, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Mehek. And I'm sure we're going to be adding those links, the budget checklist that Mehek mentioned. Those are going to be coming up in the chat shortly as a tool for you all. And so next, I'd like to turn it over to Jesse to ask, Jesse, what's happening during Children's Advocacy Week? What's the schedule? Can you give us an overview?
I can. So good morning, everyone.
Okay, I think Jesse has frozen. Funny timing. So I'm going to, let's see if Jesse comes back. It looks like, Mara, you were next. You were going to be giving the to-do list for advocates. And I think you were going to share your screen. Is that still possible?
Yeah, I was going to share a little bit of a to-do list of how advocates can make the most of next week. So first, if you haven't already, be sure to review that Blueprint for Kentucky's Children Priority Agenda, budget checklist, the fact sheet packet, become familiar with all of those issues like Mehek suggested, and we'll hear a little bit more from the team about what those some of the key bills to be following along with. We also have a great checklist on our advocate toolkit page. Thanks, Kelsey. We have, if you don't know who represents you in Frankfurt just right now, there's some new state House members and Senate members, I believe. So there's a legislator lookup tool, which allows you to, see who represents you and how to get connected with them. We also have links to be able to stream committee hearings, and when they're in chambers talking, KET is a really great resource for that. And the LRC has also been streaming those meetings since, they know folks can't be attending in person as much. So we link to the LRC there, which also has committee schedules, bill info, legislator information, that sort of thing. If you haven't already signed up for KYA's email updates, we send those weekly. Every Friday, and we also, send out statements after bills, blueprint for Kentucky children bills pass and that sort of thing. So be sure you're signed up for that if you're not already. The bill tracker is another really great tool linked on here, and we have begun populating this, but it will continue to be updated and as bills are filed and as bills move. We right now have a few on there. We, give a quick little snippet about what it is, link to a fact sheet if there's more information to kind of understand the issue, talk about who the sponsors are, where it stands, and then as it moves, if there are ways that folks can take action, we'll have that all included here. So this can be, a really great tool to pin, webpage to pin, so that you can kind of check back. We list not only the blueprint for Kentucky's children bills, but also other legislative items that are good for kids. So like I said, we just have a few on here right now as we're still reviewing bills that have been filed, and we'll be updating that throughout this next week and throughout the session, really, as those advance. We encourage you, and once we kick it back to Jessie, hopefully she's back on, we'll take a look at the Children's Advocacy Week webpage, and there, that's a great kind of hub for you next week, where we're going to have, if you're not already signed up for the email updates, you can do that. We have the schedule listed there. We list our many sponsors, and we have now under the resources tab right there where you can download the app. And on that note, we're really excited to be using the YAC app again this year. And it's much like this webpage, it's a hub of information for the week. And so, yeah, when you click onto that link, you can either use it within your web browser, or you can scan that QR code, which, you hold up your camera and you can click to a link through your phone and use that onto your web browser on your phone, or download the app. And that really gives advocates, you guys, information real quick and easy on, our event sponsors, the schedule events, and how to tune into those, which some will be streamed via Facebook, some will be just via Zoom. So that'll all be clear. Yeah, thanks for running through all of this, Kelsey, because there's also lots of helpful documents. We have all of the blueprint fact sheets listed on here. There's an FAQ section. And we'll have announcements daily too, if there is any, reminders or daily updates about any changes. So really, you can use this app every day to build out your own schedule, figure out kind of how to tune in and what to look out for. So finally, I just want to give a shameless plug for you to follow along on KYA's social media too, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's a great way to stay informed of what's happening in Frankfort related to kids throughout the session. So that's just a rundown of some ways that advocates can stay informed throughout the week and throughout the session. And hopefully we can turn it back over to Jessie to go over the actual schedule.
Thanks, Mara. I don't see Jessie back on here, but
I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Jessie, could you go over the schedule?
Yes, I would love to.
Thank you.
I think my Zoom got so excited. Like I could just feel how jazzed that I was, and it was like, can't take it. So my Zoom just quit. But so now we're going to walk through this. So I am going to share my screen. Yes, exactly. It was the anticipation. So Hey everyone. So yeah, what is so great about Children's Advocacy Week? There's obviously the advocating for kids part, advocating with legislators. Um, Another thing that's great is getting to learn more about policies that are good for kids, or learning from legislators about some, sometimes some real good strategy info or just context. The other great thing is about getting, at least for me, is getting to connect with other advocates for kids from across the state. And so we have tried to incorporate a little bit of all of that into this week's schedule. Um, and as Mara said, there is an app to keep track of this. If you have not yet RSVP'd, like if you have not yet filled out this little registration form, please do that. That gets you on the email list to receive daily email updates. Next week, it is what will get you, the follow-up information. You don't have to pick which events you're doing. You're just saying, hey, I'm going to be at Children's Advocacy Week. Keep me up to date on all the info. So please go ahead and RSVP if you haven't already. So next week, we are going to start things off on Tuesday, the 18th. And at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we will have a kickoff. And that kickoff event, it's going to be kind of a short event. Frankly, it's going to include some of the information that we're talking about today, kind of an overview of the week. But we'll have a little bit more, even more information then about, just some other things that we're kind of details that we're still sharing, like where are you going to go to find your links, who are the legislators we're definitely going to hear from, some other details like that will be published by Tuesday. We'll share those during that kickoff event. That will be streamed live on Facebook. And if you come back to this page, like on Tuesday, you will see the events with the links next to them. We don't have the links there right now. We hear that for internet security reasons, it's not a good idea to leave a bunch of Zoom links just hanging out on a web page. So that's why we hold them back, but they will be here. So just come back to this page. We will have a panel discussion with legislators that day. And we will also have, Mehek alluded to this, a Blueprint for Kentucky's Children Policy info session. So some of that may be a little bit of info that you already know about some bills that are good for kids, but it's also going to have some more up-to-date information about the budget, about the status of bills. Things could have changed quite a bit by next Tuesday. So we will be covering some content in that will, I think, be a refresher from this. Wednesday is our big rally day. So on Wednesday, the 19th at 10 a.m., we'll have the Rally for Kentucky Kids. That will be all virtual, but we're really excited about some of our guests. We have leadership from both chambers. The governor is scheduled to appear. Obviously, with the pandemic, there's a lot happening, but we expect him. Right after that, we will have a panel discussion with legislators. So hopefully you're going to be so hyped off of cheering for kids and families. And you can watch that rally. That'll be available via Facebook Live and streamed on YouTube. So we'll be streaming that. And then you can join the Q&A with legislators. And in the afternoon, we're going to try an advocate networking coffee break. Like, I don't know about any of you, but here at I'm in Eastern time, so 10:26. I am already ready for a coffee break. So I'm sure that by 2 o'clock next Wednesday, after a full day of advocating, hopefully all of you are ready for a coffee break as well. And hopefully we can have some of the really great networking time that we miss being at Children's Advocacy Day. So we will have it could be coffee or like tea or like Diet Coke, like whatever you want to bring, just join that networking time. On Thursday, a couple of things. There's a virtual day of action hosted by Blueprint partner American Heart Association as part of the Nix the Next campaign. It's about ending tobacco use among youth. There's also another panel discussion with legislators, and we're excited to talk with Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman on Thursday as well. And then we will have another Blueprint for Kentucky's Children info session. It's probably going to be the same as the one that is on Tuesday. The content unless something really exciting happens between Tuesday and Thursday of next week, which may happen. That'll probably be the same. And then on Friday, we're going to have a celebration of Kentucky kids, which will include all kinds of art and music that Kentucky kids have submitted. And I'll put in a plug if you have any art that your life has done or a child that you work with has done, whether that's art or musical performances, we are taking submissions through tomorrow. So you can also add in, your own child's or child that you work with, add them into Children's Advocacy Week, which would be awesome. So while I'm on this page, as Mara pointed out, there are resources here at the top where you can get to the app. And as Patricia mentioned earlier, thank you to all of our Children's Advocacy Week sponsors. You can see all of them here, sponsors and all of the Blueprint for Kentucky's Children partners. You all are what makes advocacy next week and throughout the rest of the session possible. So we are really grateful for all of you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Patricia. But if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and I will answer.
I have a question for you.
Yes, Patricia.
So I think this is a great overview of what the events happening at Children's Advocacy Week, but just underscoring what Terry and Mehek shared. It's also critical for you to have that interaction with your legislator this week. If folks on the call don't know who represents them, would you mind helping, just walking through really quickly how they would find out on our website?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways to get to this from our website, but I think the easiest way to do it, if you're on like our homepage or anywhere on our website, if you go up here under Advocacy and then go to Advocacy Toolkit, there's several different tools here, but this Legislator Lookup is the important one that Patricia's talking about. And it's really easy. You click on that Legislator Lookup tool and it pops up this tab right here. You just put in your address. It'll look it up for you. If you don't already know, that is okay. If you've never contacted your state legislator and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so nervous, this is going to give you all of their info. And you can contact them. It'll show you all of their contact info. And you're welcome to email them or call their office line and try and set up an appointment through their staff. The staff up there are awesome and really helpful. Look up your legislator here. If you aren't even sure what to ask them yet, like what bill to support or what bills you may be looking out for, one thing you can do is just say, hey, like send them an email that's like, hey, I'm your constituent. I would really love to get to know you, and whether that's via an appointment or just to start to have kind of a rapport, that is really important. So yes, thank you, Patricia, for pointing that out. And you can find some other advocacy tools on there as well, like tips for writing a note to your legislator, how to follow up from a legislative appointment. Some other stuff like that is also on our advocacy toolkit page.
Fabulous, thank you. All
right, thanks, Patricia.
And I think that's a perfect segue then. So we absolutely want you to be reaching out to your legislators, and we thought it might be helpful to give you a sense of some specific bills that you could talk about if you feel so inclined. So I'm going to ask my colleagues Alicia and Courtney to give you kind of a sense of what are the blueprint bills that have already been filed that you could be lifting up in your conversations. So Alicia, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Patricia. So the first priority I want to talk about is allowing local communities the option to regulate the use, display, sale, and distribution of tobacco products in an effort to curb use among youth and also prevent a new generation from becoming addicted to nicotine. So this priority would remove a current state law, and that would allow local cities and counties to make decisions about what is best for their community if they choose to do so. Just a couple of notes here. It would not create any new state laws and it doesn't create any local mandates. It really just opens up the option if local communities would like to regulate tobacco products in any way on how they're used, displayed, or sold in their area. We are excited that we do have a legislative champion, which is Senator Paul Hornback, on board for this issue, and we look forward to seeing a bill filed very soon on that. So more to come on that, and you can be looking at the bill tracker for when that is up. A second priority that I want to mention is extending Medicaid coverage for new mothers up to 12 months postpartum. So we know that postpartum is a very vulnerable time for mothers and their baby, and this is especially true for women who are on Medicaid. And many of those women are at risk for losing their health insurance just 60 days after the end of their pregnancy. So despite the increased risk of postpartum death and illness, up to half of women do not receive the routine care that they need after birth. So really this priority is to just make sure that women have that routine care and have access that is not interrupted after they give birth for 12 months. This priority has been filed as House Bill 174. And is sponsored by Representative Mackenzie Cantrell. So definitely excited about that. And it is awaiting a committee assignment right now. So that one is already up on our bill tracker for you to follow along. So with that, I'll turn it over to Courtney to talk about a couple more issues.
Great, thanks, Alicia. So the one that I want to talk to you all about is making sure that we prohibit the disqualification from benefits for workers who are unemployed because of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. So in addition to ensuring that victims of abuse, assault, or stalking will have access to this unemployment benefit, this bill will also require workers who process these claims to be trained on the dynamics of these issues, and the total number of claims that are paid annually will be reported to the LRC. So our partners at the Kentucky Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Kentucky Association of Sexual Assault Programs have both been leading this advocacy work for the past 2 years. So we at KYA, as well as our partners at Bloom Kentucky, are happy to be working alongside them to hopefully get this bill passed this year. This is one that we know is really good for families because there is that clear overlap between child maltreatment and intimate partner violence. So unemployment benefits can really impact a person's ability to leave a violent relationship or not. This one has already been filed as well. This is House Bill 83, and it is sponsored by Representatives Kulkarni and Heverin. And I am going to turn it back over to you, Patricia.
Thanks, you all. And just a reminder that the bill tracker is the tool where you can see as bills continue to be filed. We encourage you to bookmark that on your website and or on your computer and keep going back to it. In addition, clearly beyond the bills, one of the biggest things that's going to impact kids and family this year is the budget. Those budget deliberations, which are underway now. So we also encourage you to refer to that budget checklist and lift up the priorities that you care about there. We know we've seen the House budget already. The governor has been giving us peeks at what his priorities are going to be. He's going to release his full budget on Thursday. But some pieces that we're excited to see, continued funding for full day kindergarten has been included for both. We are hoping to see that continue along with other priorities, which we encourage you use that budget checklist. Reach out to us if you have questions. We're happy to support you on that. So we've given you a lot of information, lots of links. We hope this has been helpful. And we're really excited to see you next week virtually. And I'm going to now turn it over to my colleague, Melissa Collins, to close this out.
Right. Thank you, Patricia. And I don't know about you all, but I am so excited for Children's Advocacy Week. I mean, we have a jammed-packed week ahead, and we are so excited for the opportunity to call on our legislators and make a real difference in the lives of Kentucky kids. And we couldn't do this without the help of all of our advocates, just like you, who are on the call with us today. So like Terry mentioned at the beginning of this forum, we really want to raise the importance of the policies for kids and families and also find that common ground. So that's our goal. Keep those two things in mind as we head into Children's Advocacy Week and the rest of the General Assembly. So in addition to that, be sure to register for Children's Advocacy Week, get the app, start building out your schedule. and also stay up to speed on all of the policies and who your legislators are. So we have a lot of tasks on our to-do list, but it's going to be a great week ahead, and we can't wait to see you. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Aetna Better Health of Kentucky, for their support of today's Advocate Forum. And there will be a follow-up email, which will include all of the recordings, all of the links that we've discussed today. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.